A man steps off the 203 bus at Garibaldi Street, Buenos Aires, May 11, 1960, 7:40 p.m. His name is Ricardo Klement. He is 54 years old. He wears a gray suit, slightly worn at the elbows. He carries no briefcase. He walks with the posture of a man who has survived by being unremarkable. Ricardo Klement does not see the sedan parked 100 meters down the street, engine running. He does not see the four men inside, watching through tinted glass. He does not see the fifth man, positioned in the drainage ditch across the road, holding a camera with a telephoto lens. He does not know that Israeli intelligence has been watching this same walk from this same bus for 3 weeks straight. He does not know that 12,000 kilometers away, in a windowless room in Tel Aviv, a file has been stamped with a single word, confirmed. Ricardo Klement reaches his house, number 14, Garibaldi Street, a small, nondescript structure in a working-class neighborhood. He fumbles for his keys. The sedan's headlights switch on. At 7:43 p.m., 3 men exit the vehicle. They move with practiced efficiency. No running, no shouting, just controlled, deliberate motion. One carries a syringe, another, a prepared statement in Hebrew and German. The third has handcuffs concealed in his jacket. The man who calls himself Ricardo Klement is grabbed. He does not scream. He is too shocked. Within 4 seconds, he is in the back seat. Within 7 seconds, the sedan is moving. Within 40 seconds, they have turned 3 corners and changed vehicles at a prearranged transfer point. By the time his family realizes he has not entered the house, Ricardo Klement is already en route to a safe house in the San Fernando district. But Ricardo Klement is not his name. His name is Adolf Eichmann, SS Obersturmbannführer, architect of the final solution, the logistician of genocide, the man who organized the transportation of millions of Jews to extermination camps with the efficiency of a railway timetable. And this was not a kidnapping. This was justice, 15 years delayed, executed by a nation that did not yet exist when his crimes were committed. This was Mossad's most audacious operation, an act of extraterritorial justice that would violate every principle of international law and redefine the boundaries of state power. This was Operation Finale. Adolf Eichmann was born in Solingen, Germany on March 19, 1906, the son of a businessman. Unremarkable childhood, mediocre student. He tried accounting, he tried sales, he failed at both. In 1932, unemployed and aimless, Eichmann joined the Austrian Nazi Party, not out of ideological conviction initially, but out of opportunity. The Nazis offered structure, purpose, a path upward for men without prospects. He found his calling in the machinery of persecution. In 1934, Eichmann was transferred to the SD, the Sicherheitsdienst, the Nazi intelligence service. His assignment? The Jewish question. He studied. He read Theodor Herzl. He learned Hebrew. He became the Reich's foremost bureaucratic expert on Jewish affairs. But Eichmann was not a theorist. He was an operator. When Austria was annexed in 1938, Eichmann established the Central Office for Jewish Emigration in Vienna. His innovation was systematic. Confiscation of assets, forced emigration, assembly line efficiency, 50,000 Jews expelled in 8 months. Eichmann called it his conveyor belt. Heinrich Himmler took notice. By 1941, Eichmann was head of Department B4 of the Reich Security Main Office. His jurisdiction, the logistics of extermination. He attended the Wannsee Conference in January 1942, where the final solution was formalized. He took notes, he coordinated train schedules, he calculated tonnage and fuel consumption. He turned genocide into a spreadsheet problem. Adolf Eichmann never personally killed anyone. He did not need to. He killed with memoranda, with deportation orders, with timetables. He was the invisible hand that guided freight cars to Auschwitz, Treblinka, Sobibor. By war's end, he had helped orchestrate the murder of 6 million Jews. To the Allies, his name appeared on witness testimonies but remained obscure. He was not Himmler. He was not Goering. He was middle management, a functionary. He slipped through the cracks. In 1945, Eichmann was captured by American forces but used a false identity. He escaped. He hid in Germany for 5 years, moving between safe houses, protected by sympathetic networks. In 1950, with the help of Catholic clergy and Nazi escape routes, the Rat Lines, he obtained a Red Cross travel document under the name Ricardo Klement. He boarded a ship to Argentina. Buenos Aires in the 1950s was a sanctuary. Juan Perón's government harbored thousands of Nazi fugitives. No extradition treaties, no questions asked. Eichmann worked in a factory, then as a foreman at a Mercedes-Benz plant. He lived quietly, modestly. He remarried under his alias. He had children. He believed he was safe. But in Jerusalem, at the newly established Mossad, a man named Isser Harel did not forget. Harel, director of Mossad, had a mandate from Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion. Find Adolf Eichmann. Bring him to trial. Show the world what had been done. Show the world that Israel would pursue justice to the ends of the earth. In September 1957, a tip arrived. A German prosecutor, Fritz Bauer, contacted Israeli intelligence. A daughter of a Holocaust survivor living in Argentina had written to her father. She was dating a young man whose father bragged about his Nazi past. The father's name, Ricardo Klement. The address, Garibaldi Street, Buenos Aires. Mossad began to watch. The file reached Isser Harel's desk in Tel Aviv on October 2, 1957. It contained a single photograph, blurred, taken from a distance, and an address. Harel did not act immediately. Mossad in 1957 was not the sophisticated apparatus it would later become. It was 13 years old. Israel itself was 13 years old. Resources were limited. Confirmation was essential. A mistake would be catastrophic, diplomatically, operationally, morally. Harel dispatched an agent to Buenos Aires. His name was Yaakov Meidad. His cover, a wealthy European businessman exploring investment opportunities. His mission, visual confirmation. Meidad watched Garibaldi Street for weeks. He photographed the man who called himself Ricardo Klement. He noted his schedule, the 203 bus, the walk home, always at 7:40 p.m., always alone. Meidad sent the photographs back to Tel Aviv. Israeli intelligence analysts compared them to wartime photos of Adolf Eichmann. The problem? Eichmann had aged. He had no mustache now. His hairline had receded. But the ears do not change. The spacing of the eyes, the jawline. On March 8, 1960, Mossad's chief identifier made the determination. 90% probability match. Isser Harel presented the findings to Prime Minister Ben-Gurion. Ben-Gurion authorized the operation. Codename, Operation Finale. The objective? Capture Adolf Eichmann alive. Extract him from Argentina. Bring him to Israel for trial. This would not be an assassination. This would be theater, a public tribunal, a reckoning. But there was a problem. Argentina would never extradite Eichmann. Even if they acknowledged his presence, which they would not, cooperation was politically impossible. Israel had no diplomatic relations with Argentina, no formal intelligence sharing agreements, no legal recourse. The capture would have to be covert, extraterritorial, a kidnapping by any legal definition. If the operation failed, if Eichmann escaped, if the team was caught, if the story leaked, Israel would face international condemnation. Argentina might sever ties. Nazi sympathizers would be emboldened. The entire mission could delegitimize Israel's moral authority. Ben-Gurion accepted the risk. He authorized the deployment of an elite team, 8 operatives, hand-picked. Most were veterans of the Palmach, the pre-state strike force. Some had survived the Holocaust themselves. They were ghosts, no official status, no backup. If captured, Israel would deny all knowledge. The team leader, Rafi Eitan, age 32, a legend within Mossad. He had participated in the capture of Nazi war criminal Adolf Eichmann's superior, but this would be his signature operation. The operational commander, Zvi Aharoni, the man who had first confirmed Eichmann's identity. Methodical, obsessive. He had studied Eichmann's wartime habits, his speech patterns, his psychological profile. The doctor, Yona Elian. His role, sedate Eichmann during extraction. Keep him alive, no visible injuries. The trial required a living defendant. the forger, Manfred. His task: prepare false identity documents for the entire team. Forge an Israeli passport for Eichmann. Create the legal fiction that he was an Israeli citizen returning home voluntarily. The Safe House team. 2 operatives tasked with locating and preparing a secure location, somewhere isolated. Somewhere Eichmann could be held for days, even weeks, without detection. The exfiltration team. 2 operatives responsible for securing air transport out of Argentina. This was the highest risk element. Commercial flights were impossible. A private charter would attract attention. The solution would have to be creative. The operation was scheduled for May 1960. Timing was critical. Argentina was preparing to celebrate the 150th anniversary of its independence. Security forces would be distracted. Media attention elsewhere. International flights would increase, providing cover. But there was one vulnerability the team could not eliminate: Adolf Eichmann's routine. He took the 203 bus. He walked home at 7:40 p.m. He was consistent. Consistency is the enemy of survival. The team arrived in Buenos Aires over 10 days, traveling separately, using different airlines, carrying passports from 5 different countries. They were salesmen, archaeologists, tourists. They registered at different hotels. They did not acknowledge each other in public. On April 29, 1960, they convened at a rented safe house in the Floresta neighborhood. Rafi Eitan laid out the plan. Phase 1, final surveillance. Confirm Eichmann's routine had not changed. Phase 2, the capture. Intercept Eichmann at Garibaldi Street. Subdue him. Transport him to the safe house. Phase 3, detention. Hold Eichmann for 9 days, the time required to arrange exfiltration. Phase 4, extraction. Fly him out of Argentina on a specially arranged aircraft. The plan was elegant in its simplicity, but simplicity is not the same as ease. For the next week, Zvi Aharoni watched Garibaldi Street. He confirmed Eichmann's pattern: the 203 bus, the gray suit, the walk, always 7:40 p.m. But there was a complication. Eichmann's eldest son, Klaus, sometimes met him at the bus stop. If Klaus was present on the night of the operation, the plan would abort. Witnesses were unacceptable. May 10th was selected, a Tuesday. Statistically, Klaus was least likely to appear on a Tuesday. The team conducted a dry run on May 9th. They timed the approach. They measured the distance from the sedan to the intercept point. They practiced the grab. 4 seconds, no more. On May 11th at 5 p.m., the team assumed positions. The sedan, a rented Chevrolet, was parked 100 meters from the Garibaldi Street bus stop. Rafi Eitan sat in the driver's seat. Beside him, Zvi Aharoni. In the back, 2 operatives, Peter Malkin and Hans Joachim. Malkin would execute the physical capture. He was the youngest operative, but the strongest. He had trained in Krav Maga. His hands were registered weapons. Joachim carried the sedative, a carefully measured dose. Too little, and Eichmann might struggle. Too much, and he might die. The trial required him alive. At 7:30 p.m., the 203 bus appeared in the distance. The team tensed. The bus stopped. Passengers disembarked. An elderly woman, a young couple, a man in a gray suit, Ricardo Klement. He walked alone. Klaus was not present. Eitan started the engine. The sedan rolled forward slowly, headlights off. Eichmann walked closer. 50 meters, 40 meters, 30. At 7:40 p.m., the headlights switched on. Eichmann looked up, momentarily blinded. Peter Malkin exited the vehicle. No running, controlled stride. He called out in Spanish, "Un momento, señor." Eichmann turned. Malkin closed the distance. 3 meters, 2. He grabbed Eichmann by the collar with his left hand. With his right, he swept Eichmann's legs. Eichmann fell. He tried to cry out, but Malkin's hand clamped over his mouth. Malkin hissed in German, "If you cry out, I will shoot you." He had no gun, but Eichmann believed him. Joachim appeared with the syringe. He injected Eichmann's upper arm, not a sedative yet, just saline to simulate control. The real sedation would come later, in the safe house. Eichmann was dragged into the back seat, a blanket thrown over him. Malkin and Joachim pinned him down. Elapsed time, 6 seconds. the sedan pulled away. No screeching tires, no drawn weapons. Just a car, leaving a quiet street. 1 block away, a lookout operative signaled, "Clear." 2 blocks away, they switched vehicles. The Chevrolet was abandoned at a pre-arranged location. Eichmann was transferred to a larger van. Inside, he was placed on a stretcher. His glasses were removed, his hands were cuffed. Zvi Aharoni leaned close. He spoke in German. "What is your name?" Eichmann, trembling, replied, "Ricardo Klement." Aharoni repeated the question. Eichmann hesitated. Then, quietly, "Adolf Eichmann." The van drove for 40 minutes, taking a circuitous route to ensure they were not followed. They arrived at the safe house, a villa in the San Fernando district, rented under a false name. Eichmann was brought inside. He was examined by Dr. Elian, blood pressure elevated but stable, no injuries. He was given a sedative, this time genuine. He slept. For the next 9 days, Adolf Eichmann was held in a small bedroom. The windows were blacked out. 2 operatives guarded him in shifts. He was fed 3 times daily. He was allowed to wash. He was not harmed. Rafi Eitan interrogated him. Not for intelligence. Eichmann's operational value had expired in 1945, but to confirm his identity beyond all doubt. Eitan asked about Wannsee, about the trains, about the camps. Eichmann answered, calmly, methodically. He expressed no remorse. "I was following orders," he said. "I was a logistics officer." Meanwhile, the exfiltration plan was in motion. El Al, Israel's national airline, did not have regular service to Buenos Aires. But on May 19, 1960, an El Al Bristol Britannia turboprop was scheduled to arrive in Buenos Aires for a special diplomatic flight. Officially, the aircraft was transporting an Israeli delegation to Argentina's independence celebrations. Unofficially, the return flight had 1 extra passenger. The forger, Manfred, prepared documents. An Israeli passport for Ziv Zikroni, Eichmann's new identity. The passport photograph was taken in the safe house. Eichmann, sedated and compliant, posed for the camera. On May 20th at 8:01 p.m., the team moved Eichmann from the safe house. He was dressed in an El Al flight crew uniform. He was given additional sedatives, enough to keep him docile but conscious. Too unconscious, and airport security might ask questions. The team transported him to Ezeiza International Airport in a convoy of 2 vehicles. The lead vehicle carried false documentation identifying the group as El Al crew members returning to Israel. At the airport, they bypassed standard security. The aircraft was parked on a remote section of the tarmac, away from the main terminal. Argentine authorities conducted a cursory inspection. They checked passports. They did not check faces carefully. At 11:05 p.m., Adolf Eichmann was escorted up the stairs of the El Al Britannia. He was seated in a rear compartment, separated from the main cabin by a curtain. 2 operatives sat on either side of him. Dr. Elian monitored his vital signs. At 11:40 p.m., the aircraft taxied. At midnight, it lifted off. By the time Argentine authorities realized Ricardo Klement was missing, the Britannia was over the Atlantic Ocean, heading east. On May 22, 1960, a maid entered the house at 14 Garibaldi Street to clean. She found the family in a state of panic. Ricardo Klement had not returned home in 11 days. His wife Vera had filed a missing persons report, but Buenos Aires police showed little interest. Men disappeared in Argentina. It was not unusual, but Vera Klement knew. She suspected. On May 23rd, Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion stood before the Knesset in Jerusalem. He made an announcement. "I have to inform the Knesset that Adolf Eichmann, one of the greatest Nazi war criminals, is under arrest in Israel and will shortly stand trial." The world reacted with shock. Argentina immediately protested. Foreign Minister Diogenes Taboada condemned the operation as a violation of Argentine sovereignty. He demanded Eichmann's return. He called it a kidnapping. Technically, he was correct. The United Nations Security Council convened. Argentina filed a formal complaint. The debate was procedural, legalistic, cold. Israel's representative, Golda Meir, did not deny the facts. She reframed them. "Eichmann," she said, "is not an Argentine citizen. He is a fugitive war criminal who used a false identity to evade justice. Argentina harbored him. knowingly or unknowingly. Israel acted where international law had failed. The Security Council passed a resolution condemning Israel's violation of Argentine sovereignty, but it did not demand Eichmann's return. The resolution was symbolic, toothless. Behind closed doors, intelligence agencies recognized the signature. Mossad had announced itself, not as an intelligence service, but as an instrument of retribution. The operation sent a message to every Nazi fugitive in South America, in the Middle East, in hiding anywhere. There is no statute of limitations on genocide. There is no safe distance. We will find you. In Argentina, Nazi networks went underground. Some fugitives fled to Paraguay, to Chile, deeper into the continent. Others assumed new identities. The operation had a chilling effect. For 15 years, men like Joseph Mengele, the angel of death, believed they were safe. After May 1960, they knew otherwise. Eichmann's trial began on April 11, 1961, in Jerusalem. It was held in a bulletproof glass booth, not to protect Eichmann, but to protect the courtroom from potential assassins. The trial was televised, broadcast globally. It was the first time the full horror of the Holocaust was presented to a mass audience in systematic, documented detail. 112 witnesses testified, survivors, liberators, historians. They described the ghettos, the trains, the selections, the gas chambers. Eichmann sat in the glass booth, listening through headphones. He took notes. He showed no emotion. His defense was simple. I was following orders. I was a small cog in the machine. The judges did not agree. On December 15, 1961, Adolf Eichmann was found guilty on all 15 counts. Crimes against humanity, crimes against the Jewish people, war crimes. On May 31, 1962, he was hanged. His body was cremated. His ashes were scattered in the Mediterranean Sea, outside Israeli territorial waters. No grave, no memorial, no trace. But the operation's legacy endured. Operation Finale established a precedent that states could act extraterritorially in pursuit of justice when international mechanisms failed. It was a controversial precedent. Some called it vigilante justice. Others called it moral necessity. In the decades that followed, Mossad conducted similar operations. In 1973, they assassinated Ali Hassan Salameh, architect of the Munich Olympics massacre, in Beirut. In 1986, they kidnapped Mordecai Vanunu, an Israeli nuclear whistleblower, in Rome. In 2010, they allegedly killed Mahmoud al-Mabhouh, a Hamas commander, in Dubai. Each operation echoed Eichmann. Each tested the boundaries of sovereignty, of law, of morality. But Operation Finale was different. It was not an assassination. It was a trial. It was transparency. It forced the world to confront a history many wanted to forget. Today, Garibaldi Street still exists. It is a quiet residential street in Buenos Aires. Commuters pass the bus stop. Children play in the small yards. There is no plaque, no marker, no indication that history was violently altered there on a Tuesday evening in May 1960. The house at number 14 has been demolished. A newer structure stands in its place, but the operation endures. In Mossad training facilities, Operation Finale is studied as a masterclass in planning, patience, and operational discipline. It is dissected, analyzed, replicated. Because the operation revealed a fundamental truth about the modern world, that justice, when denied by law, will be pursued by other means, that nations, when wrong beyond measure, will act outside the boundaries of convention. Adolf Eichmann believed he had escaped. He believed 15 years and 12,000 kilometers were enough distance from his crimes. He was wrong. In the end, there is no distance great enough. There is no time long enough. There is no alias convincing enough. There is only the invisible machinery of pursuit, operating in silence, waiting for the moment when routine becomes vulnerability. And on a quiet street in Buenos Aires, that machinery executed its purpose with surgical precision, leaving behind only the illusion of a normal evening and the reality of justice, 15 years overdue. The hunt for Adolf Eichmann remains one of the most daring intelligence operations in modern history. It redefined the limits of state power and established Israel's Mossad as one of the world's most capable intelligence agencies. But it also raised questions that remain unanswered. Where is the line between justice and vengeance? between law and necessity? These questions persist today in every covert operation conducted in the shadows, by nations pursuing their own definition of right. If you found this story compelling, there are dozens more like it, operations that rewrote history without leaving a trace. Consider subscribing to see how intelligence agencies continue to operate in the invisible margins of international law, executing missions the world will never fully understand.